Extra, extra, read all about it. Yesterday was a Friday in January, but boy, oh boy, it did not feel like it. We had trades, we had signings, we had news, and guess what? There was another trade today. Once again, not the trade deadline, not even the soft trade deadline before the Four Nations face-off break, but here we are, and, well, boy, oh boy, buckle up, grab a snack, get a drink, because we've got to discuss all of that, much more, and that.
Hi guys, it's Saturday. Isn't this weird?
I really do feel the need to check my phone just in case anything's happened in the last 45 seconds.
Right? Yeah, this is
like it has.
This is the first for us. We're doing kind of an emergency podcast for you guys because wow, a lot happens. Lots has happened in the last 24 hours.
That's putting it mild.
Trades. Yeah. So welcome back, guys. Your hosts, Kelsey Surmat's Hockey News, Hannah Kirkell, Vegas Hockey Now. This one isn't going to be, our normal format, structure, etc., yada yada. We're literally just going to talk about what's happened over the past 24 hours. As we mentioned, it's an emergency podcast. Mm-hmm. We just wanted to talk about it. So the Penguins did make a big move last night.
Let's go through the day chronologically, shall we?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to suggest. Perfect. Is that I think it would be perfect. We'll get to the Penguins stuff, but there was a big trade earlier in the day. Hannah, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, first, I actually wanted to briefly mention the salary cap news.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a big one too.
We finally got some clarity on that, and it's not a projection. This is an agreement. Yes. So we know what the ceiling's going to be. We know what the floor is going to be. And we know it through the 2028 season. It's not going up quite as high as some people expected it this year. But next year it will be over $100 million. And the year after that, I think the ceiling is $113 million. So
yeah, I'm
mean,
pulling it up right now.
Let's chat about that. I mean, I feel like we kind of knew this was coming, with the escrow cancellation and all. But did you expect it to be quite this?
I in a sense, yes, just because of the way that that it's been talked about. However, I didn't expect those $9 almost $10 million increases year by year.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is, and I can read the exact numbers here for you now. So for 2026, it's $95.5 million. That's going to be a $7.5 million increase on the $88 million that's currently this season. So, I mean, that's the biggest increase in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the lower limit for 25-26 is 70.6. And then in 26-27, your upper is $104 million, which that's, if my math is correct, $8.5 million increase.
If you're looking at me to get to check your work, look away.
Yeah, it's 8.5 from 26 to 27, or you know what I mean. Anyway, upper limit in 26-27 is 104, lower limits 76.9, and then in 2027-2028, upper limit is 113.5, which if you're mathing again, that's a $9.5 million increase. And lower limit is $83.9 million. So what you're looking at here is basically next season 7.5 increase, season after is 8.5 increase, season after is 9.5 increase. So
I mean, the really interesting part is that in 2028, the lower limit is just under what the ceiling is right now. You know, I mean,
yeah,
that's how it should be.
Oh yeah.
But we got away from that for a long time, so it's really neat to see it heading back. And it's good to see that the league is in a good place. I really do wonder how this is going to affect the product, though. Because how with the NBA, when their cap increased drastically, like a players' union kind of started, and
yeah,
players could kind of all conspire and they could say, let's all go here and win a cup here. And I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen. I'm hopeful. I'm cautiously optimistic. And boy, oh boy, am I ready to see some of the god-awful contracts handed out to middle sixers this summer.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you nailed it right there. I think that's who's going to benefit the most from this because, I mean, you expect the top guys. Yeah, you expect the top guys to get cash in anyway. I mean, that's not going to come as a shock to anybody.
Nico
but those middle sixers,
Mitch Marner, they're going to make money and they're going to be worth it. Every penny. Because that's who they are as players.
Yes.
But when you look at like the middle sixers and the bottom pairing defensemen, those guys are going to make out like bandits.
Yeah, they are. And I think that's going to be a trend that you continue to see. And I mean, it's good to see, you know, not star players making more money. I mean, that's
no. That I'm not you know, mad at all.
But you know what? There's going to be a whole lot of overpays. And, you know, another thing that makes this interesting too, because the cap is spiking so much, it also kind of changes the value of some current contracts, which is something to consider too, because even if you're looking at a team like the Penguins, you know, Rickard Rakell at $5 million average annual value, that's going to be a player that's worth $7 million now, you know? So it's something to consider with, you know, a lot of these players that are signed to, you know, team like those deals now, those are looking like team friendly deals. So I think in terms of movement on the market, you're going to probably see a lot more movement of those types of guys because those deals will now be team friendly, you know?
And deviating from the Penguins because, you know, I like to do that.
No, that's fine.
I look at a team that has a ton of those team-friendly contracts already. I look at a team like New Jersey. Jack Hughes, he's locked up long-term team-friendly. Nico Hischier, long-term team-friendly. Jesper Bratt, same deal. They're going to get Luke Hughes signed to a fine deal. And then, I mean, your 3-4 best players are going to be making such a small percentage of the cap because of how drastically it's increasing.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Florida too, right? I mean, they've got Verhaeghe and Forsling and Reinhart signed a deal and Barkov's not making too much and that Kachuk deal. I mean, it was already looking pretty fair, but I mean, it's looking like a steal now. I mean, honestly, the Florida Panthers could win 3 Stanley Cups in the next 10 years. I don't know, you know, like it just extends that window for competitive teams, and I am just as an enjoyer of the league and of the game, so excited to see how this pans out for teams like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you look at a team like New Jersey, I mean, obviously that it helps that their players were at the right age. They came up at the right time. They were able to make extend those deals.
And that they left a little bit of money on the table, probably.
Yeah, but now, I mean, as you said, they have their core locked up. You know, they're going to have, I mean, I talked in an article about the Penguins having all this free money. The New Jersey is going to have a ton of cap to work with.
And they're going to be more attractive as a free agent destination because they've got a good future. I mean, I don't mean to be mean, but when you look, if you're a guy that really wants to win a cup and you're looking at the Devils and you're looking at the Penguins, who are you signing with right now?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not the Penguins.
Yeah, so it's a massive advantage for teams that already, you know, have those guys locked up, or for teams that don't really have those obligations yet. But I mean, this could also spell some trouble for teams, you know, like the Edmonton Oilers and Colorado, Carolina. You know, some of these teams that are already kind of up against the cap that now have to extend some of these players long term, and they're going to be making a heck of a lot more money than they were just about to. So it's going to be interesting. You're going to see overpays, and I think this could pose a problem for some of those teams in that position, because they're going to have to allocate the dollars.
$20 million, Kelsey.
Yeah, and that's not a joke, guys.
I mean, it is, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, Draisaitl just signed for $14 million. That contract's looking like a bargain probably now, you know? It's
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's resistant to change, I hate this because I didn't even have a good grasp on what player value was this year because there were some contracts given that I was not sure about, and I'm not just talking about free agency. I'm talking about extensions too.
yeah,
Um, and now it's I'm never going to have a grasp on this concept again.
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting 3 years for sure. And
No
I
kidding.
mean, you would think if the cap's going up this much these next 3 years, it's only going to keep skyrocketing after that too. I
You would
mean,
think so, yeah.
um, and it's a good thing. I mean, let's stress too, it's a really good thing for the league that they're bringing in this revenue,
Oh
because
yeah.
they did struggle for a long time, especially with the pandemic. That's the reason those escrow payments were so high, and the cuts were so high. But it's good to see that they're not only back on track, but they're kind of starting to thrive a little bit. So, um, yeah, I mean, cap's going up, player salaries are going up, and you better buckle up because
Oh yeah.
it's about to get things are about to get really
It's
interesting.
gonna be a fun couple of years. I mean, and it's really nice to like have the plan, have it laid out. I'm sure general managers are going to appreciate that,
Yeah,
especially heading into this trade deadline, um, because it just adds another layer of things to consider. If you can fit, an extension, the player might be more than a rental now
yeah,
because they can afford to extend him.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but speaking of money, you want to talk about somebody who left a lot of money on the table the other day?
You go for it.
So Brandon Saad made some headlines the other day when he and the St. Louis Blues mutually agreed to terminate his contract, and then he was placed on unconditional waivers for that purpose. Obviously, he cleared waivers. He left. I saw somewhere five nearly $5.4 million on the table, Kelsey.
Yeah,
That is a lot of money.
it is.
But he wanted to play, and I really can't blame him. Um, and I certainly can't blame him for where he signed.
Yes.
The Sod father is now a Vegas Golden Knight, which I don't mind because I'm fairly familiar with Brandon Sod's game, so I don't have to do a lot of research to figure out who I'm going to be watching and trying to deal with. I really like it when that happens because I've been doing this for like 10 minutes. This particular team, I'm already trying to figure out, exactly who the bottom sixers are, and there's such a revolving door of like the AHL guys they keep calling up, and they all do such different things. So I am thrilled that I actually am familiar with Brandon Saad's game and don't have to do too much homework on him.
Well, I'm
Thank
thrilled
you,
for
Brandon,
you.
from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah. And on that note, I mean, this is kind of one of those moments you got to take a step back and just like give him a pat on the back, man. Like he just wanted to play hockey.
Oh,
Like
I listen.
like that is a consummate professional right there. And wow. I mean, you're
No,
not going to
I
see
yeah.
too many guys walk away from that kind of money, that kind of guaranteed money. Um yeah, what
He wanted
that's
to play hockey and he didn't want to do it in the AHL. He wanted to play in the NHL. I mean, he's won his cups. Um so this isn't even like one final push to get a cup.
yeah.
Also, he's not that old. Uh
Yeah.
I know it feels like he's been in the league forever just because he came into the league, during Chicago's their dynasty, I guess.
Mhm.
And he was so good then. It really did feel like he'd been in the league for so much. He'd been in the league. It felt like he'd been in the league for another 4 years. So if you told me he was an 18-year veteran, I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever, if you say
Yeah.
so. But 14 years, ooh, we're getting old, Kelsey. Oh
We
my God,
are.
stop
We
it!
are.
My screen, Kelsey, it's always doing that.
I don't know what that is.
I like to talk with my hands. The
Well, maybe it's
screen
just
pushes
following
me.
along with your hands. It just wants to give you a thumbs up there. But yeah, thumbs up keeps
It
apparently
doesn't
me on
do
the
it to
screen if
you,
you can't
Kelsey,
see
and
it.
you just gave an actual thumbs up. Meanwhile, I wave my hand around and
I don't know.
Ghost
Maybe it thinks
camera.
you're like raising your hand. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's
StreamYard
not
doesn't
doing it for
like
me.
me.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well,
That's a good
Brandon
transition.
Saad, the Ultimate Pro. Just awesome stuff from him. But
Yeah, snaps for Saad.
But why don't we go ahead and talk about the second Friday blockbuster trade in 2 weeks?
Let's. Thank God this is over, Kelsey.
Oh yeah.
I mean, okay. Don't get me wrong. I was enjoying tuning in to the Dan called it the Canucks of our lives, and I thought that was pretty good.
That's a good one.
I did enjoy tuning into that and seeing the newest. I don't even know what to call it. You got Jim Rutherford going on talk shows and saying there's no way that we're going to resolve this problem. You've got JT Miller saying no comment. You've got
Elias Pettersson saying no comment.
Yeah, when just a couple weeks ago they were both saying that the media was lying and trying to pit them against each other and they were actually the best of friends. But it's over now. And as, New Jersey-born poet Bruce Springsteen once said, the Rangers have a homecoming in Harlem late last night.
They sure did. So, the Rangers acquired JT Miller from the Vancouver Canucks. They also got Eric Brandstrom and Jackson Dorrington. And Vancouver got Filipino, Victor Mancini, and a conditional first-round pick, which we'll get to in a second because that conditional first-round pick relates to, what.
Don't spoil it, Kelsey.
I'm really bad at that. I'm sorry. I like the little transition things, and sometimes I just get ahead of myself there. But I want to talk about this Miller to New York thing for a second because, I mean, if you've been paying attention to news cycles and anything, this didn't really come as a shock. I mean, this has been reported for a week or so now.
More than that. I mean,
probably. Yeah.
I legitimately feel like it's been going on 2 months since we heard that the Rangers were interested in JT Miller.
Yeah. And based on Kyle Dubas's remarks this morning, it seems like things heated up this week, like really intensified over the last week, obviously, because it ended up happening. But I think this is an interesting move for New York. They're very clearly trying to still make a push this season. I don't think that's any secret. But you're kind of putting a lot of stock in a guy that's a known locker room issue. That's been a known issue in Vancouver for a long time. And it's not like the Rangers haven't had their share of issues this season.
No. You've got Jimmy Vesey giving interviews saying it feels like I'm dying here. Did you see that, by the way? Yeah.
I did.
I mean, that's healthy. But yeah, I mean, and moving on from just the locker room cancer type thing, he's got a full no movement clause, and the Rangers now have full no movement clauses in JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad, which I foresee ending beautifully and well, and it's all going to go swimmingly.
Definitely. Nothing can go wrong.
No. Here's the thing. I understand that there are Vancouver Canucks fans out there that feel that they did not get enough for JT Miller, particularly because of Filipino's concussion history, to just put it bluntly. I mean, there were times last year where I heard that he was never going to play again.
Yeah.
And then obviously he did make a return in the playoffs. He's back this year. Which is amazing because obviously you don't want to see that happen to a young kid, especially one with so much potential. But he's a big question mark just because of that. I mean, it has to be said, and I do feel like a not nice person. I can't really think of fun ways to filter myself this early.
No, but I mean, that's valid. I mean, it's anytime you're looking at injury history for a player, and especially with concussion history, it gets really, really murky.
I mean, he's had 3, 4 concussions at the pro level. And I know
I want to say 4.
And I know they were all relatively close together. Like I know there were like 3 in a 2-year span, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Both for a player as a person, because the brain is forever. You know, you can pretend that this stuff isn't real and that, you know, CTE and this stuff is forever.
Yeah.
But you know, it's also scary for the team that has the players' rights. So I can understand why New York wanted to, I guess, get out of that. But I also understand why Vancouver took a swing at him, because when he's healthy and when he's at his best, he's a heck of a player. He's big, he's fast, he's got good hands, he's smart. Yeah. But I mean, they didn't just get Hedel, they also got a first-round pick, and they got out of JT Miller's contract and his no movement clause. Yeah. And they got Victor Mancini, who I know very little about.
I don't know too much about Mancini.
I think he's like a puck-moving defenseman. I think he's done well in the AHL. Yeah. I think he's played a couple games at the NHL level. I have no idea how they went.
Yeah, I mean, from everything that I've read, I mean, he's not going to set the world on fire. But, I mean, he's a fine player. Yeah,
he's only 20.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we'll get to this in a second, but I think the main thing here was Vancouver got out from under that Miller contract. Now, that's not to say that Miller's not a good player. He's obviously a very good player, but this also kind of opens up the door for them to, you know, make some moves otherwise, and maybe extend some people otherwise, which, again, we'll get to, but I think this gives them a little bit more of the flexibility they were looking for. It kind of removes that toxicity, obviously, from the locker room. And also, too, I mean, and I don't know if you got this vibe, too, but just based on the comments yesterday, you know, I don't think they feel as inclined to move Elias Pettersson.
I don't think they want to.
I don't think they want
him to work out. Yeah. Just because of who he is when he's at his best. You know, I mean, he's like 100-point Selke forward. I mean, he's basically Barkov West. Yeah. Or he could be. He's not Barkov West, but he could be.
Yeah. Yeah. The
and
potential's there.
And he's also a heck of a lot younger and doesn't have a no movement clause. And quite frankly, his value is at an all-time low right now, I would say.
Yeah.
So holding on to him is smart because, I mean, even if you have to flip him, come on.
Yeah.
His value, if it goes lower than it is right now, I would be surprised.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I think they're in a position now where they can see if this kind of solved the issue. Like,
exactly. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, because don't forget, I mean, they just extended this guy. You know, it's not like they're on the brink of
not like he's
losing him
in a contract year.
Yeah.
They just extended him. They want it to work out. All the best to them. And to Trader Jim. Oh boy, he wasn't done, was he, Kelsey?
Trader Jim was not done.
Oh my
was
God.
Not done. And this is where the Penguins come in. So
I had a friend. So really quickly, I just need to say this because I laughed so hard. I had a friend. As soon as the JT Miller trade, you know, she was a little late to the trade. But you know, she sent me a text. She's like, "Welcome back, Trader Jim." Then about 40 minutes later, we got the Elliot Friedman tweet. She said, "Go away, Trader Jim."
So Trader Jim
everyone
was at it again.
Let's talk about what Trader Jim did. Kelsey, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So, and it is like crazy because I actually texted Hannah like a couple hours before this, and I was like, "Hey, so I've heard that this might happen," and Hannah's like, "Well, we got to do an emergency pod for JT Miller," and I was like, "Why don't we wait to see what happens?" You know, because there's there was a lot of talk at practice yesterday. But Penguins practice. So what this manifested into, Vancouver, Trader Jim, traded for Marcus Pettersson from Pittsburgh and forward Drew O'Connor. In Pittsburgh got defenseman Vincent Desharnais. Dan Heinen's back in Pittsburgh. Welcome back, Dan Heinen. They got forward prospect Melvin Fernstrom, who was a third-round pick by Vancouver in 2024. And they got a first-round pick. They got a first-round pick.
They didn't get Vancouver's.
Yeah, they didn't get Vancouver's first-round pick. That conditional first-round pick is going to be the first-round pick that the Rangers are sending Vancouver for JT Miller. So, in essence, this was kind of a three-way trade without it being a three-way trade.
It was a three-way trade with like a 3.5-hour time difference with a little bit of an intermission. So let's talk about the conditions of that first-round pick.
Yes.
Right? So it's going to be this year's, but top 13 protected. Mm-hmm. Right? So if it's Correct. 14th, it's this year's. If it's in the top 13, obviously it's going to be next year's. Next year's completely unprotected.
Yeah, and I do think that New York can defer if they want to. I don't see why they would.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So yeah, basically, if New York finishes bottom 13 this season, that pick's gonna be theirs in 2025, and the Penguins will get their 2026.
The funniest outcome would be if the Rangers missed the playoffs and they had pick number 13. And so they said, obviously, we're going to take pick number 13. And then next year they missed the playoffs and won the draft lottery. That would be the funniest outcome. It's not going to happen, but that would be a funny outcome.
It would be quite the outcome. And you know what? We've talked at length. We talked about it on Wednesday. You know, this 2026 draft is deep.
Yeah, it's a deep draft.
So, you know, this was a big win for Kyle Dubas in the trade market.
This was a huge win.
Huge win because we were talking about, what was it, 2 weeks ago when we were talking about potential Marcus Pettersson destinations? We were like, there's no way he's getting a first-round pick. Now, you know, the asterisk here is that they're taking on Desharnais and Heinen. But
but with the cap going contract values barely even matters. Yeah. I mean, listen, here's the thing. I really get the sense that Marcus Pettersson would not have gotten a first-round pick anywhere else.
I would agree.
I truly believe that. I think when Trader Jim wants something, Trader Jim is going to get it. And darn if it, you know, maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, yeah, I mean, it is pretty interesting. The fact that Jim thinks that Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor are worth a first-round pick that could be
on expiring contracts, you know?
Yeah, expiring contracts, especially since it could be a fairly high first-round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I got a text that said he's not the only one leaving Pittsburgh. You know, he's not the only one on that flight to Vancouver. I was like, well, what do you know? Tell me things. They didn't answer. So I did kind of assume that they were either pulling my leg or maybe had wrong sources. Especially since none of the insiders had anything until the Penguins dropped their trade graphic, which, by the way, they were really on top of that. I mean,
yeah.
like the JT Miller trade, the Rangers didn't have that graphic up for like an hour. The Penguins had that, 15 minutes after the original Elliot Friedman tweet about believe Marcus Pettersson is going to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So
I think this is
clearly that had been in the works.
Yeah, this is according to Kyle Dubas, this has been in the works for about a week. He was contacted at the beginning of the week by Vancouver. And basically, I mean, I think they were pretty much waiting on this Miller trade to happen. Because once the Miller trade happened, it kind of gave them the asset they were looking for, the asset they needed, and they pulled the trigger right away.
I really wonder how things would have turned out if the Miller trade didn't go down.
I don't know.
I guess we'll never know. Anyway.
I guess we'll never know. But yeah, I do want to talk a little bit more about some of the things Dubas said. Well, first of all, he obviously just complimented Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor for their contributions to the Penguins organization. They've both been here a while. And I will say too, just these are two big locker room guys. I don't think that can be lost in this either. Obviously, the Penguins are selling. They were both UFAs. This is something you expected to happen, and they're going to continue moving UFAs.
Oh yeah, not get attached.
No, certainly not. But Pettersson and O'Connor were two really big locker room guys, really well liked guys. So Mike Sullivan, Kyle Dubas both had nice things to say about them. And then Dubas kind of just spoke on the situation as well, just the reasoning behind the trade. And I'll just read a quote from what he said. Well, do I want to read the quote from yesterday or today? Because he kind of said the same thing twice. Hold on. I'm going to see which one's better.
We could play spot the difference and we can circle the different words.
We could. Hold on. I'm really far back. I have like a million things bookmarked.
Don't we all?
Because there's so much.
My bookmarks are actually all JT Miller edit videos set to Good Riddance. And it's just all videos of him like crashing out on the bench, and
I love that.
That's all in my bookmark. I'll send you several later. They're quite entertaining.
That's great. But I'll just read the one from last night. He did say some similar things this morning. Just
professional.
What'd you say?
Your bookmark's clearly more professional than mine.
I just literally like there's seriously like 5,000 of them in here. And now I lost it. Oh my God. I'm going too far back. Guys, I promise I have it. Okay, found it. Sorry. All right. So he said last night, tonight's trade continues to move us in the direction set 1 year ago, which is to continue to add young prospects, young players, and draft capital to the Penguins as we chart our course to return the club back into contention as urgently as possible. We are pleased to add Danton Heinen back to the Penguins and Vincent Desharnais to the club and look forward to seeing both in uniform in the coming days. The addition of Melvin Fernstrom also gives us a prospect that was highly regarded at the 2024 NHL draft. And the Rangers' first-round draft pick provides us with another strong asset that we can use to acquire an elite young talent, player in the draft or via trade. And I do want to mention, too, just on Fernstrom for a second. So Kyle Dubas did mention in his presser today that this is somebody the Penguins were actually looking at drafting in the second round this past summer. They obviously opted to go with Brunick and Howe, but they think pretty highly of this guy. I don't know too much about him, but from what I've been reading, and from what I've been reading, he has a wicked shot. I did watch a little bit of film this morning, and his shot is legit. I think the issue is his skating. He's currently playing in Sweden right now. He's 18 years old. So, I mean, it's still really early. But this is a guy that the Penguins really like. He has an aptitude. They said he's shown a willingness to embrace a two-way game. So I'm kind of curious to see how his development pans out and kind of what direction they take him in. Because, like I said, Kyle Dubas said they almost drafted this guy in the second round. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess they just couldn't pass up Howe and Brunick, especially since Brunick he was first round projected before his injury, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, still a little bit shocked that Pettersson and O'Connor fetched a first.
Yeah.
I'm even more shocked about the trade this morning.
Oh
my God. So here's the thing.
Well, yeah. We'll jump back to the Penguins, but we got to talk about that.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Dallas Stars general manager Jim Nill. He's won general manager of the year twice.
Yeah.
And in his infinite wisdom, he decided he would trade a first round pick and a conditional third round pick for Mikhail Granlund and Cody Ceci. Penguins fans, I'm sure you're all very familiar with both Granlund and Ceci. Kelsey, would you have traded a first-round pick for Cody Ceci and Mikhail Granlund if you were a general manager in the National Hockey League?
I'm baffled. I'm just and I'm not going to go into the whole Gensel discourse, right? Like it's tired at this point, but how in the universe does Mikhail Granlund, who, I mean, he is on a good points pace this year. He's got, 40 points?
Yeah, because he's playing top line with William Eklund. And
yes. And,
he's on a power play with Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith and Fabian Zetterlund.
Yeah.
Tyler Toffoli.
Yeah, and, we there's been so much discourse about how in the world did Jake Hensel not get a first-round pick? Well, I'm sitting here. How in the world does Mikhail Granlund get a first-round pick? Because
next year,
he's on pace to shatter his career high in points. That was 65. So it is what it is. But just like Erik Karlsson the year before he came to Pittsburgh, when he had that 101-point campaign, there is a reason that Mikhail Granlund has been able to put up as many points as he has in San Jose. This is a team that has no regard for winning. They're tanking. They have no regard for defense.
Once again, Kelsey.
It's just agreeing.
Yeah. The ghost in my screen agreed with Kelsey. By the way, we got another thumbs up. Continue. Sorry.
This is like a little nice little subplot. I want to keep an eye on this.
This is really something.
But yeah, so there's a reason players like that, and I mean, obviously, I'm not in any way comparing Erik Karlsson to Mikhail Granlund. But
no, I'm not either.
There's a reason players can put up those kind of numbers on a team like that. And especially, as Hannah mentioned, when they're playing with that kind of talent on the power play, especially. Yeah. I just don't understand. Isn't he a UFA this year? Or is that next year?
Yeah, he's up this year.
Yeah. So not only did they trade a first for Mikhail Granlund and Cody Ceci, they also traded a first for a pending UFA Mikhail Granlund.
And once again,
just unbelievable.
Cody Ceci.
Yeah, I leave out Ceci, but yes. I'm pulling up the full trade.
And a conditional third. I mean, it's a fourth rounder that turns into a third rounder if Dallas makes the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, that to me is the first is insane enough. Right. And this is a 2025 first. This isn't a 2026 first. This isn't a 2027 first. This is a 2025 first round pick. Yep. That's insane enough. But the very fact that they're adding in a conditional 2025 third round pick it blows your mind. It really does.
Yes, it does, Kelsey. I am not sure what Jim Nill was thinking. I'm not sure if he was thinking. I'm wondering maybe. I've done this before. If you play fantasy hockey, you know how sometimes people can send you trades and you either hit accept or decline? I mean, sometimes I've been really sleepy and I've rolled over and my eyes have been bleary and I've looked at the trade and I've been like, oh, I'm not accepting that. But then I fell asleep and my finger hit accept and then maybe that's what happened, Kelsey.
Who knows what happened? Either way, you want to talk about a seller's market?
Yeah.
Wow, this is a seller's market. As we started to talk about before, neither of us thought Marcus Pettersson was getting a first round pick. Now, granted, there were a couple other things thrown in there. Still probably doesn't warrant a first round pick, especially with, a mid-tier prospect that they're giving up in this package too. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I know Desharnais is not great, but I don't think he's going to necessarily be the worst thing for the Penguins at the
and they really did. We did just talk about this. They really do need a right defenseman in a bad way.
Yeah,
and I mean, listen, here's the thing, Vinny Desharnais. I'm fairly familiar because I hate watched the Oilers a lot last year. He's not great. He's probably not going to be anywhere near as bad as, Ryan Shea or P.O. Joseph have been.
No.
Listen, I think, and hear me out, Penguins should roll out a pairing of Ryan Graves and Vinny Desharnais just because that would be like a combined 14 feet.
Yeah. Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Desharnais, he's not great. He's like a 6th, 7th defenseman. But I mean, the contract doesn't look too bad, especially with the cap going up. And the Penguins really did need a right D in the worst way. So I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
They got a 1st-round pick, and really that's what matters because the Penguins aren't contending.
Yeah.
And so it's not like they needed to bring in a star defenseman or a star bottom sixer. They're fine with Heinen and Desharnais. Heinen, honestly, put him in for Nieto right now. He would probably do just fine in a 4th-line role. He's not the type of guy that you're like, oh, but his development, he wouldn't work well in a bottom role because, he wouldn't be getting enough minutes for his development. Heinen's 27, 28. Put him on the 4th line over Nieto right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially since it looks like Malkin's back. Then you just
he did skate this morning.
What?
I said he did skate this morning.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
On the injured ice,
Then you just pop Jesse Puljujarvi out of the lineup and you just go back to listen, especially since Mikhail Granlund's getting a 1st-round pick. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Rust, Brian, you are off Sid's line. Anthony Beauvillier, get ready to learn top 6. Run up the trade value.
Oh, yeah.
For people that thought I was about to say, Rust, get ready to waive your no-move clause, that wasn't what I was going to say, but after reports have been circulating, sorry if I led you all to believe that.
Yeah, and just to clarify, too, actually your boss did sit down with Brian Rust. He published an article.
What is it? Why does Dan keep getting these quotes that get wildly taken out of proportion?
Yeah, well, so actually, from what I understand, the reports came from, basically, I read that it was, the first place I saw was, a Sports Illustrated article or something, and it was basically saying, it was Dave Pagnotta.
Known for their reliable sources.
Yeah, it was Dave Pagnotta, basically. It was kind of a nothing burger. He basically said, oh, I think Rust would be willing to move his no movement clause if he was approached about it. But then it was but he hasn't been approached about it. So, basically, Dan your boss talked to Brian Rust, and Brian Rust was like, nah, I haven't been approached about it, and nah, I don't want to leave. That, just stop it, people. Not saying it won't happen, but the guy hasn't been approached about it. And honestly,
I know there are teams interested, but
yeah, but there's also a difference
between a team interested and a team approach.
Yeah,
I'm interested in. What am I interested in? Getting sleep. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it. No. No. I'm sure teams are interested in Connor McDavid too, but that doesn't mean he's getting traded. It's just a fact of life. Yeah. Teams like players. That's allowed. That's fine. Yeah. It doesn't mean he's getting moved. If he does, this is probably not going to look so great for me, but whatever.
And honestly, too, I don't think it can be understated either. From an organizational standpoint, the Penguins think very, very highly of Brian Rust. This is a guy who, I think I see a lot of people say, oh, he could be the captain once Sid retires. Look, he's not that much younger than Sid. He's what, 32?
I have no idea.
Something like that. So
I don't know.
So, this is a guy that they highly value as part of their leadership group. If you want to call him part of a quote unquote core, he's kind of on the periphery of that. I don't see personally, this is just me talking, but I don't see personally him going anywhere at this point yet, because first of all, he still has a full no movement clause this season. Yeah. And second of all, I just don't see it unless they're completely in a position to tank in, a couple years, and they need to just sell off that contract ASAP. I think if other than Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, I think there's a decent chance he's a Pens lifer.
Yeah, I agree.
So, anyway, but
again,
I do want to
nothing to base this off, just gut feeling.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do keep checking my phone because honestly, just with the way things have been happening, I felt we've been on this for 45 minutes now. There was a good chance we missed 3-4 blockbusters.
Yeah, I know, seriously. And I do want to kind of jump back to something you said, and I went off on a tangent. I don't even remember exactly what it was.
What did I say?
Point, but I don't know, but it kind of, I still, no, it wasn't that, but I still kind of do remember, remembered what I wanted to say. I don't remember why I wanted to say it, but, I think something to think about too, especially if you look at the Pettersson return, the Granlund return. I'm still going to keep going back to that, but there is a premium for players at this deadline. That much is becoming clear. And I think a lot of it probably has to do with the cap, because these teams want to capitalize on these players while they have low cap hits. They're hoping to extend them, so where I was going with this, and especially if you look at the defensive market, defensemen are scarce on the market this season. They are. Good defensemen are. And, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but there's still a little bit of uncertainty about whether Ivan Provorov is on the block. We don't, what the heck is going on in Philadelphia? We didn't even mention that trade, but who knows if Ristolainen's on the block.
Oh my God.
Nobody knows what's happening with the Flyers or Ristolainen's on the block. And we can talk about that for a second if you want to, but I just wanted to say that, the Penguins still have Matt Grzelcyk on the block, and I've seen things, with people saying maybe he'll get a fifth, maybe he'll get a fourth. I think that's undervaluing a little bit this trade deadline.
Salary retention.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the market is, the premium on defensemen, and regardless of whether or not Grzelcyk is actually a top 4 defenseman, he's getting top 4 minutes.
Yeah.
He's getting top 4 minutes. He's already broken his career high in points. Mm-hmm. He's a good power play quarterback. A team will pay for that.
Yeah.
So
you're
anyway,
right. And they're probably not going to pay a second.
No.
They're definitely not going to pay a first. No, I'm kidding. But
crazier things have happened.
I really wouldn't be surprised to see a third or maybe a fourth and an okay prospect.
Yeah. That's just the price. I mean, that's what it's costing, and especially with defensemen.
We say that now, but then there's going to be a blockbuster where a player gets sold for peanuts, and we're going to look stupid.
Happens like that every year.
Yeah. Honestly, the really interesting thing about all this is we knew there was going to be a soft trade deadline with the Four Nations face-off, but that's not for another, it starts on the 12th. Mm-hmm. I think the freeze goes into effect probably on the 10th, I'd say maybe.
Checking my calendar right now.
Let's just spitball there. There are 9 more days for more shenanigans to take place. Some tomfoolery.
Yeah. I really expect there to be a lot of activity this deadline. And I know that's, a general statement, but like I said, this cap situation, I think is going to change a lot of things for a lot of teams and change priorities for a lot of teams.
So many players that are simply off the market now. They're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's going to be a really interesting trade deadline just because of, who's left,
Marner's left.
We don't know.
Marner, Besser.
Well, Marner has a full no move clause. It's not.
Yeah, that's an iffy one. But
Besser, who knows? Vancouver just traded for Pettersson.
Yeah.
Are they trading Besser?
That's what I mean. I feel like a lot of the big movements already happened because, I mean, you could argue that Pettersson was the biggest defenseman on the market. Rantanen was the big fish on the trade market.
Both gone.
You know, they're both gone. Miller was the other big fish. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. But I'm just because of the Granlund trade, and even the Philly trade, you know, like I'm interested to see what some of these not premium assets are going to get at the deadline, you know?
No, I'm with you.
I mean, do you want to talk about that Philly trade for a second? Or
yeah, sure, why not? So I'm going to complain very briefly because I've been covering the Golden Knights for 2 weeks. And twice now there has been a trade that is either a blockbuster or like drawn out at least that has taken place during a Golden Knights game. And the first time with the Rantanen blockbuster, that was an interesting game. I was having fun watching the Stars and the Golden Knights play because I often do because, you know, there's a lot of ill will there. Oh my God, the Blue Jackets game? Kelsey, that was bad hockey. That was some of the worst hockey I've seen in a hot minute.
I did not see that one.
Yeah. Consider yourself blessed. Plus, this whole trade was going down. I mean, players were getting pulled out of the lineup. So here's how it worked. Andrei Kuzmenko was a late scratch for the Calgary game. Friedman or Saravalli or one of the insiders, they tweeted that he was going to go to Philly. Details to come. Then next thing you know, Philadelphia, they're getting shut out by, was it the Islanders they were getting shut out by that night? Or the Devils?
This whole week's blended together.
Yeah,
I don't even know. I keep forgetting what day it is. So,
they were getting shut out by one of them. The next thing you know, Charlie O'Connor is tweeting that Morgan Frost is not on the bench, which I love, by the way. Can we just mention, like, can you imagine you're a hockey player, you're playing in a game, and suddenly you're traded to Calgary? Yeah. And, like, it did turn out that he was, like, a little under the weather and that he tried to play through it, but still pretty funny.
Yeah. There was that little meme going around where, like, there's just this guy, like, carrying this dog, like, really, I wish I could find it. It's not going to sound funny because you can't see it, but anyway, there's just this, like, guy carrying a dog really swiftly in the hallway, and it was like, when you get traded mid-game.
Yeah, no, it's pretty funny. I like when this stuff happens just because you got to think of the human element, and you got to be like, man, I would be so pissed if I was playing a hockey game. I'm out there blocking shots. The next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Calgary. What?
Yeah.
But that wasn't it. Joel Farabee also went over. So it ended up being Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. Was there anything else, or was it just that?
It was Morgan Frost. Yeah, on Calgary's end, that's all they got.
Yeah.
Philadelphia got Kuzmenko. They got Pelletier. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Oh, yeah. The hometown kid.
Yeah, and then they got the 2025 second round pick from Philly.
That's
right. A 2028 seventh round pick.
Yeah, I mean, this is a trade that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for either side, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I mean, Calgary, they're kind of overperforming this year. It might be sustainable. I don't know. I certainly don't think it's sustainable long term.
Yeah.
And you know, I really like Morgan Frost as a player. I think there's more there. I especially like that head coach John Tortorella once compared him to a toilet seat because he was quote unquote up and down. But I mean,
how would you like to be compared to a toilet seat? I just want to throw that out there.
I've been compared to a lot worse. I would take it.
No, what an analogy, though.
It's I mean, I don't know where coaches come up with this stuff, Kelsey. I really don't.
Right.
They just sit around and they just like, what should I call Morgan today? A toilet seat. What in the Shakespearean insult, high school bullying is this? Anyway, moving on from, I mean, but yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? I mean, you get two middle sixers. That's pretty much what they are, right? I mean, maybe Morgan Frost has a little bit more potential there. I don't know. Philly, you get Kuzmenko. You reunite him with Matvei Michkov, who John Tortorella like benched for half the game, by the way. So this might not be the greatest idea because Kuzmenko, again, the thumbs up. All right, the ghost agrees with me. The ghost is Team Hannah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we should start an over-under on how long it takes for both of them to be benched. You know, Kuzmenko and Michkov. They'll be in solidarity riding the pine. I don't know. And I mean, Peltier, I think that's how you pronounce it. He went through waivers already this year. Like, he passed through waivers. It's weird.
It was a weird trade. I think that's a good word for it. I
really wonder if maybe Philly was trying to dump some salary so that they could move a player at the trade deadline and like get like a cap dump back and get a high pick. I really wonder if maybe that was the idea. Maybe there's not an idea. I don't know.
Like I guess from if you're looking at this from taking out where they are in the standings and everything, I feel like this is the kind of move a team makes as a precursor to like a bigger move usually.
Yeah, exactly.
But with the position that Philadelphia is in, like, I don't think they're in a position to make that kind of move. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I understand Farabee. Yeah. And I understand Farabee. He was falling out of favor a little bit. I'm a little bit. I can't say I'm surprised.
Everyone
about Frost,
falls out of favor with John Tortorella. Farabee's been healthy scratch. Morgan Frost has been healthy scratch. Sean Couturier has been healthy scratch. Matvei Michkov has been healthy scratch. The partridge and the pear tree has been healthy scratch. It's a fact of life. It's how he shows his love, I guess.
Yeah, but Farabee's been involved in rumors for a while, and Frost has too. But I'm honestly a little bit surprised that they moved on from Frost in this particular trade.
So am I. So Calgary is in the playoffs right now. They are holding on to that second wild card. Mm-hmm. They're ahead of Vancouver by 1 point, but they also have a game in hand, so they're dominating in the points percentage. Like I said, I don't know how sustainable it is. Just because I really do think they're overperforming a lot. And a lot of that has to go. I mean, a lot of that credit has to go to the Wolfman. I've been saying this. If Dustin Wolf is not your Calder nomination, you have not been watching the Calgary Flames.
Yeah. I that's unanimous. Like, I don't think there's.
Listen, I understand what Macklin Celebrini is doing. Good Lord, I understand what Lane Hudson is doing. He's racking up points like a madman. Dustin Wolf is winning games.
Yeah.
He's got a roster that should not be in the playoffs right now in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Watch him play. He is cool, calm, and collected. Also, when he makes a big save, the good people of Calgary howl, which I love.
It's
great. My God.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
He likes to like jump up and down during his pregame routine, which is insane. I'm sorry. Just to jump on skates is insane, but he's also weighed down by goalie gear. Wild. Anyway, Calder nomination for the Wolfman. Ow!
Yeah.
How did I get here? I don't know.
But I agree. The one thing I will say about Calgary, just in the playoff race, the bottom of the West is just
it's brutal. Pretty trash.
Like, I mean, I think Utah.
East.
Yeah, I would argue it's worse because like I know there's a lot of East teams. The meat of the wild card picture in the East, I think there's kind of like a bunch of teams that have the same amount of points and they're kind of all right there.
Yeah, the mushy middle is fun.
Yeah.
The bottom is pretty gross.
Yeah.
I don't think the bottom of the West is as bad as the bottom of the East was last year. That's not saying a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I think the closest team to Calgary, which I'll check, I think it's Utah. Is it Utah? No, I meant like, sorry, like kind of the drop off. There's like a 5-point gap or something.
Oh, yeah. All right, so Utah has 51 points in 51 games. I did just see that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's Vancouver. They're still in the mix.
Yeah.
They are, like it or not, they are still in the mix. They're behind by 1 point. They've got Calgary has a game in hand, but you can't write off games in hand.
No, you can, especially this time of year. But I guess my point being was that I think Calgary still has a decent shot just because there is that drop off between like them and then Utah.
Yeah, it's Calgary. It's basically Calgary or Vancouver, unless there's you know some weird circumstance that happens. But I mean, I guess he didn't give up a lot.
Yeah.
In that trade, you really didn't. Like Kuzmenko, he wasn't really working out this year. I'm a little bit impressed that they were able to get Frost and Farabee from the Flyers for just Kuzmenko and Peltier and was it a second round pick?
It was second round.
That's crazy.
And then there was a 7th round in 2028. So yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't really know what the Flyers were doing here. I get it. I get it a little bit more.
It was a weird trade.
It was weird. I get it a little bit more from Calgary's perspective, but
Flyers only just barely.
What's going on. Yeah, just barely. But kind of rounding back to that original point. Who knows what's going on with Ristolainen and if he's on the block.
I'm sure they'd love to move him. I can't think of any teams who would want to trade for him.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's why I feel like Matt Grzelcyk might get a better return than people are expecting just because he's a cheap option. He's a UFA.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's no obligation there.
Yeah, they're not on the hook for him next year.
Yeah.
It's just
he's an offensive specialist.
Yeah.
So
a team like Florida, I've been saying this, they need a guy that can run a power play. They need it badly.
They do. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the last thing just briefly I want to touch on because I do actually have to go. There is a game tonight. But I'm
trying to get out of my ticket. Guys, if you want my ticket to tonight's game, send me a DM. I will not charge you for it. I will send it to you. I got suckered into buying season tickets last May. I have absolutely no interest in leaving my house. Today is my kind of off day. I mean, I'm still going to get work done, but today's my off day. I have no interest in going downtown, hopping on the T, and watching the Nashville Predators and the Pittsburgh Penguins. I have no interest.
Yeah. Well, and you got to cover the Knights now, so you're not even going to get to catch a lot of them, so.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys want my season tickets, please send me a DM. I'm desperate to get rid of them.
Yeah. Well,
hey, I might pay you guys, honestly.
Offers on the table, but yeah. So I guess just really briefly too, just circling back to a little bit of what Dubas said. Now, it is worth noting that they moved out a defenseman, they moved out a forward, they got a defenseman and they got a forward. There was a little bit of discourse at the presser today just about, what they're going to do as far as calling up young guys and if they're going to be calling up any of their prospects. And I kind of liked Dubas's response to that because he didn't shut it down, but he also said, hey, they've got a good thing going down there. So
yeah,
I kind of want to let them have it,
Yeah. And no, that is a very good point.
Yeah. So if you're expecting to see, prospects this season, I'm not going to rule that out. I mean, there's still a lot of activity to be had at the trade deadline. And it wouldn't surprise me to see a couple guys, Koivunen, talk about the week in review. He had a 4-goal game on the other night. Ponomarev had a hat trick on the same night. Wilkes-Barre defeated Hershey, who's at the top of the Atlantic Division in the AHL. Yeah, 9-0. 9-0. And yeah, that was Murashaw's first shutout.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Hershey, top of the AHL. They won back-to-back Calder Cup. So, I mean, it's not like they're unloading on San Jose.
Yeah.
Like the equivalent of or anything like that.
Yeah. And I do want to point out, too, just in case people were wondering, Wilkes-Barre has the second best points percentage in the AHL right now behind just the Calgary Wranglers. They actually have played a lot less games. They had like a facility issues or something that kept them from playing home games for like a week. So anyway, just they've got a good thing going down there, and I'm definitely on the train of, I want to see some of the younger guys who are NHL ready, but you almost don't want to mess up what they have going. They're going on a really nice run down there. I've talked to people who watch this team regularly in Wilkes-Barre. They said this is the best team they've had in years. So good things are happening down on the farm, but if you're hoping to see like a youth like revolution at the end of this season, I think you're probably hoping for a little bit too much. I think at most it's probably going to be maybe like 1 or 2 guys. So anyway, I would hamper your expectations a little bit there. But Dubas is setting himself up nicely this summer. He's setting himself up nicely for in terms of future capital. So we'll see. But they now have 2 first-round picks.
They've got 29 draft picks over the next 3 years.
It's insane. They already have 11 just this season. And they're going to get more. I mean,
this is the kind of greed they warned about in the Bible. I saw a tweet that said that, and I thought it was funny. I don't fully understand what it meant, but I did think it was
funny. Yeah. But, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about, maybe even on Wednesday. So, do you have anything else you kind of wanted to cover before?
No, I mean, we will have a Wednesday podcast. That'll be back to just normal. We'll talk about the Utah game that happened. We'll talk about trending up and trending down. We'll talk about anything else that might have happened. Today was just because, well, lots happened. And I mean, look, this emergency pod, it's going to be an hour and 10 minutes. But that means that next week's pod will not be 2 hours long.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some positive to pull from this. We talked about a lot of what happened.
I mean,
yeah.
No, I don't think there's anything else to add. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that happened in the league, but honestly, I forgot about the Kuzmenko Frost Farabee trade. So
yeah, I mean, I think that basically covers the major stuff.
JT Miller, he's suiting up for the Rangers in 30 minutes. And
awesome.
I will be on my couch tuned in.
Well, while you're on your couch tuned in, I'm going to, prepare to watch the Nashville Predators and the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight.
Do you want an ambient?
PPG Paints Arena. So, unfortunately, I cannot avoid that responsibility. So
I'm trying to get out of mine. Again, please shoot me a DM. Take these off of my hands.
All right. Well, that'll do it this week, guys. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about on Wednesday, and we can, delve into a little bit more Penguin-specific stuff then. But thanks for tuning in. This was kind of our first go at it with an emergency podcast. I'm sure there might be another one, may not be, who knows. But yeah, as usual, enjoy, the next couple days before we see you again. Keep an eye out on the trade market because I'm sure something else will go down in the meantime. And, stay out of trouble in that.